Hi, and welcome back to Bounce Forward with me, Tiff Hall. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land of which I'm recording this podcast, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present. Welcome back to part 2 of my chat with Genevieve Day. I want to know, what were your career goals before having Henry? Like, what were your big goals?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always had big ambitions for the agency, and I, want to work with the biggest and the best talent, but also grow the careers of the incredible talent we represent as well. And we've been really conscious about scaling that, like not just signing people for the sake of it, making sure that people that we really align with. So we're definitely like on track to hitting those goals, and we're achieving all these massive milestones of working with the brands I've always dreamed of and getting campaigns that were on TV and billboards and book deals and everything. So those are kind of the career goals that I felt that I was fulfilling as well, and getting to kind of step into that, which was really exciting. And the fear was almost not that I wasn't going to make them happen. It was like it's all going to be taken away if I'm not there with my foot on the pedal. And I think that was kind of where the pregnancy felt like it was almost getting in the way of those goals a little bit.
Yeah, right. That's so interesting.
Yeah, but I guess the irony is almost that if I could tell myself before, and time travel back to Gen pre-kids, I think we've actually had bigger months in the business. We've signed bigger names and done more amazing things after I've had kids.
Yes, and that was the same with me, because I thought I put on a lot of weight in my pregnancy, like 30, 40 kilos, and I thought, I've put on weight. I don't look like a trainer. I'm going to ruin my business because the body's meant to be a billboard for my health and fitness business.
Yeah.
But what it did is I became more relatable, and then all these mums joined my program. Yes. And they went on the journey with me to get fit again. And it made my business boom after I had kids. Whereas I held on so long to not having children and had them later than what I wanted. I'd been with my husband for 10 years. It's just, I held off thinking it would ruin everything. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
And we never say that out loud either, do we?
Never.
Because it seems crazy. Like a dirty word, being like, I have all these ambitions and I still want to be a mother, and it's, just as important to me, if not more so, to have children. Of course, we want to do that. But it's like, I don't have an issue saying that out loud now, that I was worried it was going to get in the way, but actually it became a superpower.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. I love that. So How have your goals now changed since you've been a mum?
Yeah, I think they've changed a lot. And I do feel like becoming a mum, it's almost like my edges have softened. And even I think you'd be quite similar. Like, we've been taught to work like men, right? And we girl boss too hard. We're millennials. It was like, you just keep pushing, you go for it. And I think that I've learned the beauty in softness and vulnerability, and I've become a more empathetic leader to my team. And then my goals have often, I guess, softened a little bit as well. It's less like all or nothing, and you kind of get to see the shades of grey a little bit more in that.
Yeah. And we're all guilty of the all or nothing attitude in everything, like everything we do. That's really beautiful. I think, if you were to do it all again, and I don't know if you want to have more children, or, there might come a time, what would you change?
I think, that baby bubble, I'd be a lot stricter on that, because even though we had this intention of it being this like beautiful sacred space, I broke my own rules 1,000 times, and I'd be calling the team and I'd be telling my husband, well, what happened at the office today? And so I kind of, I definitely needed to be stricter on that for myself, and then for other people as well, just saying like, this is my time, because you don't get that time again. And I think as well, like trusting my team, who absolutely proved themselves. They did an incredible job when I wasn't there in the office every single day. So I think having the confidence to step away would definitely be something I'd do differently. And then just being kinder to myself in that new mum bubble. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. And the second that Henry would like open his eyes, I would get a developmental book and be like, black and white learning.
Yes.
And he's like 4 days old.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that pressure. I was like, I'm responsible for building his brain. I have to do the best job at this. Whether like really I could have relaxed a lot more.
Yeah. And I found that I was super freaked out with Arnold and then with Vader, I relaxed a whole lot more. I was like, she'll eat when she's hungry, like, when they don't eat and they're throwing their food on the floor. And I used to get proper anxiety over her not eating. And now I'm just like, she'll eat when she's hungry. Like, feeding toddlers is a full-time job. It is just so difficult.
Yeah.
That's another
100%.
podcast. So what does a day look like in your life? Like, juggling Henry, juggling work, and I'd love to know what you do for your own mental health and your own physical health. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, our days start probably like 6 or 6:30 in the morning when Henry wakes us up. He's our little human alarm clock. And if it's too early, we try and bring him into bed with us, being like, please, a little bit more time. But he's at that demanding stage. He's like, no, we have to get up. We have to listen to the Wiggles straight away.
Oh, I love the Wiggles. Yeah.
On repeat, on loop constantly. So we start our day with him, and we try and spend that beautiful morning as a family. So doing breakfast together and being all together. A couple of times a week, I'll go for a morning walk with a girlfriend, or I try and go to a Pilates class, but I've been very slack recently. But I find mornings is the best time for movement because it's kind of like nothing else can get in the way. As soon as your day starts and the phone starts ringing, everything's out the window.
Yeah, it sets that healthy intention for the day. It's good.
Yeah. And I used to get into the office so early and smash things out, but now our childcare, if it's our parents arriving, they don't come until 9 o'clock. So we kind of get to the office just before 10. And we just know for meetings they start from 10 onwards, which again is such a luxury to have that flexibility. We go into the office 3 days a week, which is great. I personally love having that separation from home as well to kind of feel like myself again. And then occasionally I'll have a work event or have to travel to Sydney to do meetings and everything. But I'm pretty fortunate that most evenings I get to spend as a family, and I try and have that feeding a toddler, like you said, which is crazy. So lots of thrown food and rejected food. A few screaming bath times, but we just try and do bed bath and book together. Then he's down at 7. So then after that, I can jump back online if I have to do any more work. Move my body then if I can do an online class. And that's kind of it. It's definitely took a bit of acceptance becoming a first-time mum that my life isn't as exciting as it used to be. And that sounds so silly because it's what a beautiful balanced life that is. But, it used to be filled with sparkly premiere work events and going out with my friends all the time. But I think to me, this is kind of the era that I'm in, and that's kind of my juggle.
So what advice would you give to women who are thinking of having kids but are just really worried about their careers?
Yeah, I think obviously buy the book, which is the biggest takeaway.
Yes, it's fantastic.
No, I joke, but I think
tell us about the book as well.
I think that question is the perfect framing for it, because that's kind of where I was sitting when I first thought of the concept of it, is because I was pregnant, running this business, and I was having all these catch-ups with women around me in my kind of corporate circle, and I would see their lives on Instagram and I'd read about them in the paper and I'd be like, how the hell are you doing this? And again, Tiff, you sit in this camp too, where you have this beautiful family and this empire, and everyone's like, how are you doing this? And so I was just very fortunate that the people I was able to speak to in my circle happened to Steph Smith from Kick, or Jess Hattis of Frank Body, and Phoebe from The Memo. And so these women, firstly, all of them basically said to me, oh my gosh, Jen, I cry all the time. Or I do not feel like I'm nailing it. And I think I needed to hear that to take the pressure off myself as well. And then they were all kind of sharing their regrets and what they would do differently, and the fact that they are less stressed the other side of it now that they've been through that experience. And that's kind of when I saw this recurring theme and this universal thread that had to be shared with people. So I kind of felt like if these women who have, $100 million businesses have the same thoughts and concerns and fears as I do, that just makes me feel so much less alone. So I think all of them kind of felt the fear and did it anyway. And I know I think it's just crazy to really, I sat in a mother's group and I went through that as well, and I didn't really feel represented in that scenario.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't even do mother's group. I was with Arnold, I was so busy with the business, I just ditched it completely, and I regret that. With Vader, I was like, you've got to do it more. But I still didn't with Vader. I was one thing on my list I just said I don't have time for, but I did make an effort with my friends that had kids. But I just didn't even do mother group. It's terrible. Yeah. And so you say you didn't feel represented. You didn't feel there were the working mums there,
they were all kind of had the 12 months off or were deciding to be stay-at-home parents at that time, which again is a completely valid choice. And I think women that choose that are incredible because it's such a huge undertaking. But I kind of sat in that room and was like, well, no one here seems to be in the position that I'm in. But then I went back to the stories in the book and I was like, these women have the same ambitions that I do. Or these women are the ones in the same, stressful situations that I have. And it's not just about running your own business, but anyone in a career who, wants to return to work or has to out of necessity as well. It's, I think it's just nice to have those stories and have a place for them.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Oh, it's an awesome book. Now, can you tell me, who are your role models? Like my mum was a working mum, right? And, she had my sister and I very close together. Then when I was 16, she fell pregnant accidentally with my brother. And we had a newborn in the house when I was doing my VCE. And
oh my gosh.
So she had a baby on her hip while she was running a big business. So she's always been my role model for juggling. Who are your role models for juggling?
Oh, that's such a good question because I think we kind of came up in this, millennial girl boss era where we've had people, held up on these pedestals and hustling, which is awesome. And I think there's so many of them. And I do really look up to Jess and Brie of Frank Body as, examples of that. And they, have 2 kids each. And even, Chelsea Morley, who's also in the book that runs the agency Tiny Disco, has 2 kids, this incredible career. And Rachael Corbett, who's single mom by choice, friend of the pod. I think they're all kind of role models to me and just people who manage to seem to kick these huge goals in life, but it hasn't stopped them from having a family or having a personal life at the same time. And I think as well, my mum kind of wore both hats, which I loved growing up because she was a stay-at-home mum for the first 10 years of my life. And then she returned to her career and got to kind of climb that corporate ladder in her field a bit later in life. So I got to kind of see that you can also do both in that capacity too. But I think everyone is juggling it. And for a long time, no one would really say how hard it is or that they have help. And that's also a big chapter in the book. Erin Deering's another example where, she had Triangle Swimwear and has just launched her own fashion label, Deering. And she says, I've got 3 nannies. If people ask me how I'm doing it all, I don't.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think we have to take the shame away from having support and help. And, I chose not to do childcare because my thinking was they will get sick. I can't afford to have a sick child at home. I can't take days off. So I have a nanny, and, that was my choice. And my nanny's been with me for nearly 8 years now.
Wow.
And she's always helping me to do everything. And, I couldn't do it alone. It does take a village. It absolutely takes a village. And I didn't have, my parents are still running their big business. So I didn't have a lot of grandparent support. So it's amazing once you dig deep into those stories and actually see the villages that, are supporting these amazing careers.
100%. And also because imagine if someone's comparing, their life to these other women doing incredible things and thinking, oh, well, I'm not good enough because I can't do that. It's but you may not have the same level of support or you may not have that village that this other person has. And I think it just, by shining light on it, it makes everyone kind of more of an even playing field and, debunks any shame that's there because also it shouldn't be shameful to have help if you choose to have it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for shining a light on the juggle, Jen. I loved what you said about becoming a mum is your superpower in business, and I'm going to take that with me today. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it's so beautiful having this community of mothers and we all look out for each other. It's a secret language we all speak now together.
Yeah, it is. It is. Thank you, Jen. Thanks so much for listening to Bounce Forward. I love having your company, so please DM me on Instagram at tiffhall_xo and let me know what topics you'd love me to cover. Don't forget to rate and review me on the podcast app. Speak soon. Happy days.